Steel Curtain Network.
Touchdown! Touchdown para Calvin Austin! El Monte Washington es arma. ¿Quién más? ¿Quién más? DJ Watt!
What is up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Preview. I am Jeff Hartman, joined by Dave Schofield and Bryan Davis. And this is exciting. We're getting ready for Pittsburgh-Cleveland Part 2. We're going to talk about what will be different in this rematch. The Steelers have revenge on their mind. We'll talk about that. Dave, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's good to be here talking Steelers. It's good to have a normal football week.
Yes.
We have this week and next week, and then that's it. And then we don't get normal football for a long time with the schedule. So it's even better to be having a normal week facing the Cleveland Browns, particularly with it being a home matchup.
Absolutely. And we bring in the belated birthday boy, Bryan Davis. Happy belated birthday, Bryan. Welcome to the show.
I'm wearing a grayish shirt to match my graying hair, so I'm feeling good. But no, thank you. I appreciate those birthday wishes from both of you and friends and family. So just you're fantastic. It's nice for another trip around the sun. And when my mom always used to say, it's always good when you wake up and you don't read your name in the obituary. So that's a good thing. So the first time I've ever quoted my mom on the show, I usually quote my dad. So guys, it's Cleveland week part duh. And I'm ready to watch the Steelers slap the duh right out of them.
This is an interesting game. I got to be honest, after the Steelers lost, someone was asking me the other day, a bunch of Cleveland guys, and they was like, hey, what do you think about the game? And I said, if the Steelers would have won that game on Thursday night, I'd have an uneasy feeling about this game. But because of the loss and the way they did it, I feel like the Steelers are ready to just stick it to the Browns, like, to be completely honest. And everyone wants to talk about it, and George Pickens and what he said after the game. Well, let's not ignore what Myles Garrett said after the game and what Greg Newsome tweeted out after the game. There's a lot of bad blood between these two teams, but man, when I start thinking about it, I'm like, the Steelers by 1,000, and maybe that's a little arrogant on my part. It's just the vibe I'm getting. Dave, what vibe are you giving off or getting right now?
Well, the only way you can come out and stomp a team is if you're actually truly better than them. And that is the case with the Pittsburgh Steelers, right, comparing them to the Cleveland Browns. So that's why they need to do that, because they are more than capable of doing that. So just come out and take care of business.
Bryan, what about you? What kind of vibe are you getting about this upcoming game?
Oh, I'm scared because I'm getting an amazing vibe, and I don't like when I get a good vibe like this. You know, I made a lot of comments after that game that the Steelers and Browns were in the same situation, but by getting down early in that game, coming back in the snow was a lot harder than having the lead like the Browns did. And the Browns had a lot of momentum going throughout that game. So I realize it's tough for both. They both played in the same snow. I get that. It's just the Steelers' preparation mentally coming off of that big win. That was it was a perfect storm. And the perfect storm was for the Cleveland Browns to win that game. And we saw it with other rivalry games that very weekend too. So, you know, I'm not as worried about it this time around. I feel like, and I'm going to bring this up probably a lot, I feel like after watching Hard Knocks that I know exactly the preparation thing is the way that Mike Tomlin prepares that team compared to the other three in the meeting room. My gosh, it's phenomenal.
Well, I was going to bring this up, but I'll bring it up anyways. I know Dave didn't watch it. And I know that you talked about it on Pittsburgh Standard Time with Greg, and he hadn't watched it. And both of you said, look, I feel like the best parts are going to be out there. To me, the best parts were not the parts that were shown on, regular social media platforms. The Nick Herbig stuff was awesome, but I knew once I saw that we're going to see this till, on all these different avenues. I thought what the coolest part was, and everyone was so enamored with Mike Tomlin and the way that he interacts with his team. But if you saw Mike Tomlin on the Pivot podcast or on Ben Roethlisberger's podcast, you saw how that, in his terms, how the hot dog was made. You knew what that was like. You've seen that side of him before. I thought it was really cool watching Mike Tomlin and his coaches. And they actually had cameras in there as they're talking about Joe Burrow. and the plan, the Joe Burrow plan. And then Minkah Fitzpatrick walks in and is sitting there with the brain trust on the defensive coaching staff as they're talking about how they're going to implement this game and Jamar Chase and the challenges that he brings. It was just a glimpse behind the curtain. And I thought it was really cool. And that was my favorite part. Everyone always said, I know there's been a lot of people like, oh my gosh, why are they just talked about the Steelers? Well, the Steelers played the Bengals. It was a division game. So you saw a lot of Bengals, a lot of Steelers. This week, you're going to see a lot of Steelers, a lot of Browns. And then you're going to see a lot of Steelers and Ravens that week. And it's just the way that it is. But I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was great.
And with the bye, you're going to see a lot less Ravens because they have a bye this week. So, the one thing that if you haven't watched it, and a lot of people were afraid of is sensationalism. And nothing's sensationalized in this. It is like Jeff said, the peek behind the curtain. I loved it. I could have watched it for another 4 hours. My sons watched it twice.
Yeah. Now, outside of that, you look at the weather, because I know Dave didn't see it. So I want to bring up anything with Dave because he didn't watch the show. It's been cold as crap around here recently, and that's the case in Pittsburgh and in Western Pennsylvania. Dave, it's supposed to be pretty nice, is it not, this Sunday?
It's supposed to be in the 50s.
Yeah. So everyone's like,
get to 50. Yeah,
it's gonna be really cold. It's gonna be a beautiful day for football. And you compare it to what the Steelers and Browns went through in week 12 on Thursday Night Football. It's going to almost be the antithesis. Rich is going to be there. I heard him talk about that. Yep. That's exciting for him. And
Kyle.
Hashtag pay Kyle. So, I think that when you're talking about two teams, full week, no excuses, although the Browns could have an excuse because they have a short week because they played on the road on Monday Night Football. But still, we'll get to see it, Dave. We'll get to see if the Steelers are by far the superior team, like we all know they are. Can they actually put it out there? And I think this is a very good time to talk about the injury reports for both teams. And I got spoiler alert. Could you ask for anything better?
Other than players that have been on IR or PUP almost all season, miraculously coming back and being able to play this week. No, you really couldn't ask for it to be.
Who would be that player?
Oh, Troy Fautanu.
Okay, I'll give you that. Cole Holcomb.
Even Cole Holcomb, he'd be a depth piece now.
Yeah.
With the way things would work. I'm trying to think. Even Roman Wilson, they weren't using him before. Yeah. This is a red shirt.
Bryan has a legal pad for some reason. Why?
That's what the injury report looks like to me. It's blank.
Yeah. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, here we go. The Steelers injury report from Thursday. Cam Hayward did not practice. Rest. That's it. Everyone else is full. I'm not even going to leave. I'm not even going to talk about the guys who rested the day before. So Calvin Austin, full. Corey Trice, back on the 53, which they originally messed up, and then they changed that. Full. Alex Highsmith, full. Montravius Adams, full. But I'm still not going to be shocked if they don't bring him back this week because, frankly, I don't know who they're going to cut to do it. So they don't have to rush him. That's it. Everyone else was just rest the day before, and then we're back as full.
And the keys here are going to be Friday. Because when you talk about Alex Highsmith, he did talk earlier this week and said his ankle is still real tender. He's got to trust it, and that's an important part of the body for an edge rusher in terms of the bend that they have to have. And also Calvin Austin III. He's working his way through protocol, so he goes to full participation on Thursday. How does he respond? Does he have a setback? That'll be important for that. But other than, Bryan, what else could you ask for, right? We're in week 14.
I have not seen an injury report like this in a long, long time. I don't think I ever have. Yeah. I'm banging on everything.
All it takes is one game, and it could completely go out the
window. Absolutely, yeah.
But to be this deep into it, that's pretty good. There's no excuses.
Yeah. Here we go. Honestly, I think Corey Trice is not going to get a helmet this week.
And that's okay.
And it's okay, too. But they had to bring him back in the 21-day window. But bottom line is, who's not going to get one? who you going to sit that's been getting a helmet? Beanie Bishop, Cam Sutton, James Pierre, not with him being the gunner on special teams. So you're going to try to squeak one out at another position? I mean, honestly, I'm expecting Jeremiah Moon to not be active.
Yeah.
If Highsmith is. I mean, who? Matakevich or Mark Robinson, one of those special team guys you're not going to have active, to get Corey Trice helmet? I mean, you're going to go on the offense?
I forgot Mark Robinson was on the team. I'm sorry.
It's a good problem
I'm not being
to
a
have.
jerk, but
it's a good problem to have. Like you have so many bodies that you're not just trying to scrap someone from a practice squad to make things work like they did at the end of last season with Miles Jack and Eric Rowe and all those players. So, all right, let's go to the other side of the docket. Let's go to the Browns. What do we have there, Dave?
All right. So for the Browns, I'm just going to look at Thursday. There were some people that, they're listed because they're dealing with an injury, but they've been full. Like guard Joel Bitonio. I knew it as soon as it came out of my mouth. It was wrong. He's been full, but he's dealing with an ankle. Cornerback Miles Hartman, tibia. You love these things, Jeff.
Bones. Just give me the bone injuries.
Yeah. He's limited. You've got defensive tackle Maurice Hurst, ankle, didn't practice. Defensive end Sam Kamara, concussion, didn't practice. Wide receiver Jerry Jeudy, knee, full. Now he's been full both days, but they're at least listing him that he's dealing with something. Wide receiver Elijah Moore, shoulder, full. That was after being limited the day before. Cornerback Greg Newsome, abdomen, limited both days. Wide receiver Cedric Tillman, concussion, didn't practice either day.
Ooh.
Safety Juan Thornhill, calf, limited after not practicing the day before. Wide receiver Jamari Thrash, shoulder, limited after not practicing the day before. And tackle Jedrick Willis, it says knee, but I think it's white flag is really what it is, right, Jeff? Did not practice.
Talked to John again this week.
Wills.
Yeah. Talked to John Suchan again this week, and he said, we're not expecting him anytime soon. So I don't know what that means. But Afton Ford asked, and a couple other people did, about Roman Wilson coming off IR. They did not start his.
No. So that was, for those of you that missed, we were saying, well, was there anyone that could come back from IR? And I was just naming players that are on IR for the Steelers. That was all. So there's no report for that. I mean, other than those guys, which we would love to have back, people that are on IR. I mean, what are you going to do? Yeah. But other than that, people that aren't on IR, they're all there ready to play.
All right, Brian, what do you think about the Browns injury report?
It might be fool's gold. There's a lot of guys that were limited yesterday, but full today, like Jerry Jeudy. I don't even consider that. If they're full today, I don't really worry about but Newsome, is he afraid of revenge from George Pickens? I don't know. I mean, who knows?
It says abdomen. Is he getting ready for that gut punch when Pickens puts up 180 yards and 3 touchdowns? There's a safety you mentioned, and I can't remember his name, but Juan Thornhill.
Thornhill's a starter too, and I don't know. I mean,
he went from not practicing to limited today.
Yeah, so I mean, I probably feel like the Browns are going to be close to full strength too. So I'm not worried about that. Is DeJuan Jones back? Is my question.
No, he's on IR.
He's on IR.
He's
okay,
out for the year. Yeah,
that's still a good thing for the Steelers, even though those they were handled last time. But I think this is going to be a different animal.
All right, very good. So let's talk about.
I was going to say, can I say one more thing about that?
Yeah.
With their injury report, in the words of Mike Tomlin, we do not care. You know what? Let every one of them be healthy. That's fine. Doesn't matter. Go out and beat them anyway.
The Browns is the Browns, as Juju Smith-Schuster once said. All right. The title of the podcast is "What Will Be Different for the Steelers in this second go round between these two division rivals?" And that's a good question. And so, Dave, I'm going to throw it to you first, unless you want Brian to answer first. Give me an aspect of this game that you think will be different outside of the preparation part, outside of the fact they played on Thursday night, outside of the fact that they played in the snow.
Yeah.
Give me something on field that you think will be different in week 14.
just the overall mentality. This team got you once. You have to be focused on them as an opponent, so you will be in a better mental space to hit the ground running at 1:02 or whenever the kickoff is.
Okay, fair enough. Bryan, what about you?
This is simple. It's short. It's sweet. They're going to find ways to protect Dan Moore Jr. And Dan Moore Jr. will be more ready to go. I'm not saying he wasn't. I'm just like, he is like they let Herbig know that last week that he was facing Zeus Brown, and they reminded him. They're reminding Dan Moore and everybody else that Myles Garrett's coming back for more.
That's a good one, because I think, well, some people said that they did have a plan, but it just was poorly executed. That they
in
were
the first half.
Yes, that they were calling for chips, and guys, Pat Freiermuth, like they were missing the chips. Like, you can't do that against the defensive player of the year. Whether you think he should or shouldn't be doesn't matter. He is still a good athlete. He is still a good player.
Yeah.
So anyone that says he's not, well, we're watching a different game. But I like that, Bryan. I think that's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that the Steelers come out and really do show a balanced attack on offense, and they dictate the style and the overarching momentum of the game. And what I mean by that is, when you look back at, they were kind of pass happy against Cincinnati, and they used a lot of yards after the catch, and that's fantastic. And that's kind of like extended runs. I would love to see them, and this goes into Dave's realm, own the trenches. If I look back on that Week 12 game, the trenches were dominated by Cleveland. They weren't dominated by Pittsburgh. You think about all those fourth downs where the Steelers got zero push. And Zach Frazier was still coming back from his ankle injury. I'm sure he's more confident in it now than he was then even. I want to see them just they dictate everything about the game from the offensive perspective. And I think if the Steelers can come out hot like they did, and that was one of my keys to victory on Let's Ride on Wednesday, you look at what they did against Cincinnati. I mean, they had their first 5 drives, not counting the pick 6. Every single drive ended in points, and a lot of them were touchdowns. If they could do that against Cleveland, it's going to throw them through a loop, and it's going to work right into the Steelers' favor.
And the next one should have been points too, but the field goal got blocked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Dave, anything else you think will be different?
You hit the big one that I was going to talk about after just the overall team mentality, and that is the trenches. That's why the trenches I thought was big against Cincinnati, because the trenches needed to bounce back after not being that very strong against the Browns. Now you have to show, okay, we now showed what we can do against somebody else. Now show what you can do against that team that got the best of you last time. Specifically owning the line of scrimmage. I'm ready for that. I want to see it. And I don't know. I'm prepared for the Steelers to do it. I don't think that they've got a huge matchup in the next week of the season. And fans do it. We're not talking about that, because it's all about you've got to make these Browns pay. So that's the focus. I like it. Stay focused. You're not having to worry about coming off the big emotional win. Just get out there and say, you're not getting us twice.
Yeah, play hard. All right.
Play hard.
Bryan, anything else for you?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of dump passes again. Even though I like the fact that you both mentioned that they're going to get back to the run probably in this game, but I think they found that new component against Cincinnati and found out how well it worked with a guy like Cordero Patterson. You're much better dumping off the ball to Cordero than having him take a handoff. I think you're going to get so much more out of him if you do that. I think they noticed that. I think they noticed that those little short passes could make up for a run as well too. So I think that's going to be employed even more. And I know once they put something on film, they don't do it as much. I just feel like that is going to be something you're going to see different. I also think you're going to see, and you saw it last week against Cincinnati, you saw a more planned out Justin Fields package. It was when it was necessary and when it would work. but it wasn't overkill with it. And that I think they're honing how they can do that package as well. And the Browns are going to see just different things, but they're going to be a whole lot more. I know we said we were going to say it, but they'll be prepared in a different way this week.
A lot of the things that we've talked about, myself included, have all been on the offensive side of the football. I want to see the Steelers defense harass the hell out of Jameis Winston, because the last time they played, they got one sack, I believe. They got one sack of Jameis Winston the last time. And coming into that game, and Dave, according to your numbers on Pittsburgh Standard Time, they still are the leading in terms of giving up sacks. They still lead the league. They had 46 going into week 12.
50.
They have 50
now. Yep.
Okay, so they must have given up 3 to Denver.
Well, no, I think they gave up. No, you're right. They did only give up 1 to the Steelers. And that wasn't that a run out of. No, that was the week before it was run out of bounds one. I'm getting, if it's not the most recent game, sometimes they run together.
No, but I want to see the defense really put some pressure on this guy. He will make mistakes. This is not Joe Burrow who's going to, he's going to burn you more than you're going to hit him. Jameis Winston will turn the ball over, and he will turn it over at a ridiculous clip, but you cannot give him the luxury of sitting there and just having all the time in the world. And while this is not going to be different from 2 weeks ago, I want to see Joey Porter Jr. step up and have a clean game. He's talented. He has the skill set, but we just don't need 6 flags thrown on you in one game for being accepted penalties. Jerry Jeudy should have the Steelers' attention. If he hasn't yet, then shame on the Steelers, because he's turned into a really, really good receiver with Jameis Winston in Cleveland. I want to see the defense come out. And, when you get to our score prediction, I was surprised when I wrote my number for Cleveland points. I hope the Steelers defense comes out and says, Jeff, they're not even going to come close to that number. I would love that. Nothing more than to see the defense, who everyone was so enamored with 400 yards and 44 total points, even though 37 were from the offense. I want to see the defense say, we were kind of pissed off that we gave up 38 points last week, and let's come out and shut them down. That's what I'd like to see. Dave, anything else?
Oh, I'm just looking at numbers because we have, our, some of the resident Russell Wilson haters, especially because they don't play on the Broncos anymore, talking about, the Steelers and they're going up against such a bad defense. Yeah. When you look at it from a points perspective, the Bengals are 29th, the Browns are 26th, and the Ravens are 23rd. So it's not like it's that much different there. But the big thing is, you do realize that no one has. They give up a lot of passing yards. The Bengals do not 400. Not 400. They hadn't given up. Honestly, they'd only given up 300 passing yards once this season, one time. And that was 345 to Lamar Jackson in overtime. So you could say they're a bad defense, but other teams haven't been able to do that against them.
Yeah. I
Sorry.
get it.
Just had to put that out there.
I get it.
I had to put it out there.
Brian, anything to add?
Yeah, I just really think that, these are division games, and in a division game, you saw it against the Ravens, 6 field goals was good enough to win. You saw against the Browns, it was a slobber knocker as well. That game was that game was closer than anybody thinks. It was a lot closer than what the score showed. I know they won by 5, but that was ended up being a really tight game for as bad as the Steelers played. And the Steelers played poorly. The Browns did not blow them out in this game. A lot of people don't realize that. And then when you have a quarterback like Joe Burrow, that I think he's having a phenomenal season. He's one of the, next to, I know Mayfield's having a good season, but, I look at the Josh Allen in Buffalo, and then I look at Joe Burrow, and I'm thinking those guys are just amazing. Imagine if you had a Joe Burrow on your team. That guy knows how to put it up. If they had a decent defense, they would be contenders again. But it doesn't matter. You play to the barometer of the game, and Pittsburgh Steelers showed one thing, that they could win a 6 field goal game. They did it twice this year, and they showed they could win in a shootout. And if you are that diverse, then good things are going to happen. So that means they could play whatever hand is dealt them. And we're finding that out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Let's get to some super chats here real quick before we take a break. Not You obviously gives us $10. Said, I just want to win, but how much do the Steelers need to beat the Browns by to feel like they got revenge after having to listen to all their crap about Garrett and beating them? I think this is a good question, and I might rephrase it a little bit. What do you think would appease the fan base? Because let's be honest, the fan base was happier after beating the Bengals 44-38 than they were the Ravens 18-16. Because a lot of people saw 18-16 and said, oh, they only put up 18 points. The horrible interception at the end of the half, all those things that happened. People love to see points scored. I think that's what it comes down to, especially after the Steelers have not been able to score a lot of points the last few years. So what would be a good margin of victory for you, Dave, for you personally, and then also for the fan base to kind of be like, okay, this is a legit group?
All right. For me personally, 1 point.
Win
the freaking game. Win the game. Don't, but what would make me really happy, win by double digits.
Yeah.
Win by double digits. I just don't want to feel like this. I don't want the Browns to even feel like they're in the game. That's what I want. Because you didn't have, they didn't beat the Steelers in that way, that the Steelers weren't, that's not how it played out. That's the way I want it to go down. But you're right about the offense. You really are, because that's what people want to see. They feel better about that. But also at the same time, on that Ravens win,
that was
you didn't have much time to turn around. You know what I mean? So honestly, fans would probably feel better if the Steelers won by, won 38-37 than they would feel if they won 20-10. Yeah. Honestly, which I wouldn't feel the same way myself, but just go win the game and just show that you're a team that's ready to play December football and that you're still on the rise with what you're doing.
Bryan, what about you?
Yeah, I like everything Dave said there. I'm just going to say, the fans want over 24 points and they want close to 30. But if you consistently, and I'm going to go to the Jeff Hartman role, over 20. And, if this team scores over 20, most of the time they're going to win. And again, last week was a product of a team of the number one. You're playing the number one offense and you kept up with them. But this defense they take that kind of stuff personally. So, really you take the win every single week, no matter what flavor it is. It doesn't matter, because I tell you what, winning 9-6 tastes just as good to me as winning 44-38. I don't care. Just win.
Yeah. In the words of Herm Edwards, you play to win the game. And I think that when you think about, in this respect, and I'm being 100% honest, if they were to win a game 9-7, this is a huge moment in the Steelers season. If they can win this football game and then they beat the Ravens, they pretty much, if I'm correct, I'm pretty sure that they would have the lead no matter what would happen in the other games. This is a big one. This division, that has nothing to do with getting swept by the Browns for the first time since 1988 or anything like that. In terms of the trajectory of this season, gotta have it. Gotta have it. Let's go to another super chat here. Vincent Gorello gives us $5. Says, do you think it's crucial for Russell to continue to audible out of bad plays at the line of scrimmage? It seems they are more productive when he is. I'll say this first and foremost. It's great you have a quarterback that is capable of doing that, and a quarterback that the coordinator is comfortable with him going to the correct call. And I know our own coach, KT Smith, did a great breakdown. I wrote up an article for him on SteelCurtainNetwork.com about how Russell Wilson used the intel that he was getting from these motions and stuff to really abuse the Bengals offense. Is it critical? Is it crucial? I don't know if I'd go that far. Is it a benefit to the team? Absolutely. Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, and plus, I just love hearing the calls. I didn't hear anyone else mention this, but I turned to my wife and said right there, I'm like, did you just hear what he said? My kids would have enjoyed it. Bluey.
I did hear that once. Yeah.
So I was like, "What's he doing?" I'm like, "Remember Ben Roethlisberger used the dilly."
Dilly.
So I'm like, it's generally the first letter is code for something else. I mean, because they're like, why would they say that? But I don't know if every time he's actually changing stuff, or if he's confirming things, or if it's dummy calls. I don't know. I don't care. I just liked how it worked. The offense seemed to be on the same page while all that was going on. That is not something you deal with in September and October, even though it wasn't Russell Wilson for the Steelers this year because of how things worked out. That's something that you have to grow into as the season goes. And I like seeing that being part of their repertoire in December.
Bryan, anything to add?
He's a coach on the field, and you get that feeling, and you kind of knew that when he was hired, and you kind of knew that still that he was a coach, even though he wasn't on the field, games 1 through 6, because he was coaching Justin Fields on the sideline. It doesn't matter what happened in Denver. It doesn't matter what happened in Seattle. What happened, Seattle fans probably miss him. The Denver fans were glad to see him leave. In Pittsburgh, they're happy to have him, and they're getting the best possible version of Russell Wilson. And whether that is real or fake, I don't care. They're getting a great version of him, and we're not sending him back.
No, it's well said, guys. Well said. All right, we're going to take a quick break. If you're watching us live on any platform, we're not going anywhere. If you're listening to the audio side, you hear a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back after this break. All right, Steeler fans, welcome back. Second half. This is where we get into the fun stuff. After we've abandoned the Steelers and Browns specifically, we talk about over-under. We've got score predictions, trivia, and a trip down memory lane for sure, as well as our final thoughts. But, Dave, why don't you update our over-under numbers after Week 13?
Yes, I will update those numbers here after Week 13. All right, it was an interesting week last week. First time in a while, I came out on top. Nice. I had 4, Bryan had 3, Jeff had 2. George Pickens, you were right. What you were 75.5 and he went at 74. That's a pretty darn good. I mean, we all picked it to be over and it was under, but that's a pretty darn good line. And what's interesting is the ones the 2 that we all 3 picked. No, wait, we picked 3 of them that were the same. 2 of the 3 that we picked all the same, we got wrong, which was Pickens over, and the takeaways we said under 2.5. That was Cleveland. Cincinnati hadn't turned the ball over 3 times in a game all season. They were not a big turnover team. So that was really good to get those takeaways. So, and then of course, Bryan only got 1 out of the 2 for picking the over under or the game because he picked the Bengals. Jeff and I both got 2 points on that. So just to go, Bryan still has the overall lead because he had opened that up pretty good. And he got a little bit more of a lead on Jeff this week. Bryan's at 41, Jeff's at 38, I'm at 35. And then when it comes to the picking the winner against the spread and the over-under, I'm at 13, and you guys are both at 12.
Oh, that's getting close. All right.
Yep.
All right. Are you ready, Dave, to write?
I've lost my writing utensil. It's buried somewhere in this book.
That's a problem.
I got it. I found
it.
I got it. I'm back.
All right.
We go.
So we're going to start off
14.
This is week 14. Yes. We're going to start off with Pittsburgh team rushing yards. So it doesn't matter who's running the football as a team. I've got this number at 124.5. 124.5. And I didn't do a deep dive into the Browns or how much they're giving up. This is just based off of what I think the Steelers might be willing to do. Bryan, over under.
I'm going to go over. I think there's going to be it doesn't matter that the Browns do stop the run well. I just feel like the Steelers are going to really pay attention to the run here.
Okay. Dave?
Yeah, I'm trying to find what the Browns defense is.
128.6. I just looked that up. I totally didn't see that before I made the line.
Yep. I'm going over as well.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking over. I think as a team, they're going to hopefully get that done. And if they are, that means they are really dictating the pace of play. And that's exactly what I talked about. So I'm going to go over as well. All right, let's go to Russell Wilson passing yards. Russell Wilson passing yards. We all know that last week he went berserk and he ended up throwing for 414 yards. So, challenge is a little different game based off what we just talked about as well. I have it at 265.5. 265.5, Bryan, over under.
I'm going to go under because I think I don't think he's going to have to pass that much. And, I feel like, sure, he has the ability to put it up, but, 240 is great. And 250 is great. So I'm going to go ahead and say we'll take the under, but slightly.
Okay. Dave?
Yeah, I'm going to go slightly over because 250 is great, but 270 is a little bit better than that. And let's look at that one. So I'm going over.
I've got moon balls galore. Let's go over. 265, he can get that quick. And so then they can run it out in the second half. So
Maybe
I've got over.
Last week he hit, what was it? He had that in the first definitely the first 3 quarters. The question is, how close was he at halftime? Yeah.
That's a good question. All right. Next one, Pat Freiermuth targets. He was targeted 7 times last week. I've got this number at 5.5. Bryan, over under.
That's so good, Jeff. I'm going to go ahead and say under slightly. I can see him getting 5, 6, maybe not, but let's go ahead and play the game.
All right, Dave.
The question is, how many targets did he have the week before?
Not 7.
Yeah, but that was also in the snow. That's a really good line. Because I would say, if you just ask me on just talking in casual conversation, I'd say, I don't think he'll have 5 or 6. That's why they make 5.5 is a really good number. I'll go slightly over, see if I can make up some ground on Bryan.
It hit the week prior in week 12, he was targeted 4 times in the snow. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to be more of the same, right? When you think you got a feel for Pat Freiermuth and his production, they seem to pull the rug out, and I'm going to go under. I'm going to go under here. I think 5 might be what he gets targeted in this game, but that's still under. All right, so the Steelers.
And to answer the question, Gabriel Golden said that Russ had 257 at halftime last week.
Oh my gosh.
So he did almost hit that in the first half.
And people say, well, a lot of it was yards after the catch. Who the hell cares? It still counts.
Yeah, that was the most yards after a catch in a game, in an NFL game this season. Was something that I saw reported on X. But but you don't understand. That's part of a quarterback's job is to get the ball to their receiver where they can still gain more yards.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to the next one. Pittsburgh Steelers sacks. So this is just them getting after the Browns quarterback, whoever that is, in this case, Jameis Winston. I know they're coming off a 4-sack outing. Can't get over the fact they only had 1 2 weeks ago. So I've got the line at 3.5. Bryan, what do you think?
I like 3, so I got to go under.
All right, Dave.
I like 4, so I got to go over.
I'm going 4. Let's see the blitz party. Let's get after Jameis. Let's go over. Let's go over. That would be awesome. All right, the next one. The Steelers are taking the ball away more than any team in the NFL. They lead the NFL in takeaways, and they're second in turnover differential. They're second to the Buffalo Bills. I've got the Steelers takeaway line at 2.5. Bryan, over on.
Gosh, wow, they do take the ball away a lot. I think they're good for a strip sack. Let's go ahead. I'm going to go with the Herbig factor, even though Highsmith's back. Herbig's, my gosh, he's forcing fumbles like crazy. So we'll throw that one in there. Let's go 3. We'll go over.
All right, Dave.
Yeah, me too. I'll go 3. They got 3 on them last time. Maybe that's something that the Browns work on specifically, but my goodness, if you watch Monday Night Football, you're like, how many turnovers is this team going to have? So don't know if they'll turn any of them into direct defensive scores. We'll just have to see if that's the case. But let's set up the offense on some short fields.
I think that the Steelers are going to get more sacks than takeaways, and I got this as the under. I think they'll get 2. All right, let's go to the last one. Chris Boswell field goals. 2.5 is the line. Bryan, over under.
I'm always big on Boz field goals. I'm going to go over. If it's 2.5, let's get 3.
Dave?
Yeah, that one burned you last week, Jeff. Bryan and I both got it, and you did not. But hold on, I've got to actually look at my. I'm actually based on the score that I've already chosen. I have to. I didn't realize exactly what I was doing, so I have to take the under this time.
I'm gonna go over. Here.
I don't want it to be under, but based on, like I said, based on my score prediction, it is what it is.
I'm giving Minka the week off. I'm not doing a Minka Fitzpatrick interception, yay or nay. I feel bad for the guy. So,
I was going the over on that. I was planned. Let it be said, this is his week.
No, I hope so. I hope it is. I really do. All right, so that does it. Let's talk about predictions now for the game. Pittsburgh Steelers, Cleveland Browns, Acrisure Stadium. If you're interested in the spread, it's currently Steelers are giving 6.5 points with an over-under of 43.5. 43.5. If you're talking money line, you can take the Steelers minus 270 or the Browns plus 220 on the money line. So, Bryan, we'll start with you. What's your prediction? How do you see this game playing out?
Look, take the Steelers in the money line because they're winning this game, and I know I could eat it. I know it's I just don't have. Well, when I made that selection a couple of weeks ago, I almost went with the Browns because I just didn't like the storm that was brewing. I just felt like it had all the components of not a trap but a letdown. I think this is the Steelers 1988. You said, Jeff. Yeah. They don't get swept by the Browns, and they're playing them at home. I really feel like this team is really who we think they are, and I have no problem. I don't care how good the defense is, how good the defense isn't, whoever they play every single week. I just know what this team is, and I like the inner workings of this team. So I'm going to go ahead and say Steelers 30, Browns 21. Over.
Okay. Dave, what about you?
Yeah, I picked out my score a couple days ago, and I don't think they're going to put up 40. I don't think they're going to do that back-to-back weeks. I don't think they have to. I don't think this game turns into a shootout. I think this turns into a grind them out eventually. But I want to see the Steelers take care of business, and I've got them winning this one handily, with them putting up more points than we've seen in Steelers teams in the past, but just not to the same level we saw last week. I've got them winning 31-17.
Oh, I hope that's right. That would be nice. Probably sit back in the fourth quarter and just enjoy some football and not have to have a heart attack.
Exactly.
I too like the Steelers. I like them to win. I like them to cover. I like the over. I've got Steelers winning 29 to the Browns 22. And this is that number I talked about earlier. I would love nothing more than the defense to come out and say they're not scoring 20. And maybe this is a 29-17 or 29.
That's why I went 17.
Yeah, something like that, something like that. But still, 29-22 is the final score I have. Steelers advance to 10-3, setting up some really big games coming up. But
that's because for the Steelers now, Jeff, for you, 30 is the new 20.
Yeah, that's right. Well, not on defense. God,
no. Get to 30, keep them under 30, win the game.
The rule of 30. Yeah, I always said as a coach when I coach lacrosse, like the rule of 10 should not have to change. You should just play better. So, all right, trip down memory lane. Bryan, you ready?
Yeah, slightly.
Slightly?
Yeah, Actually, I am ready. I am going to go back to 2002, but not the game that Jeff thinks I'm going to bring up. The game I should bring up would be the wild card in the snow. I am going to bring up the Steelers being down by 2 scores late in the fourth period of this game, week 3 in September of 2002 against the Browns. They would have went 0-3. And what happens? Well, they go ahead and bench Cordell Stewart. He's angry. He's benched. Tommy Maddox comes back, gets those 2 scores, gets them into overtime, and they win the game in overtime. It was crazy. If you watch the flashback, it is absolutely nuts. There were weird kicks. There was weird everything in this game, but this is what propelled the Steelers to get to that playoff game in the snow and get into the playoffs. It was a magical year for Tommy Maddox and the Steelers. 2002 is one of my favorites of all time. They didn't win the Super Bowl, but they won a lot of hearts.
Wow, that's under a minute. And
Wow.
I remember that game, but it's not good. It doesn't sniff the playoff game. That 2002
It doesn't.
playoff game was just so freaking awesome with
And
Matu Mafala.
one bad ball.
People forget this. They went for 2 after that touchdown and they converted. Does anyone remember the play?
Antoine Randall L. Was it Hines to Randall L?
It was a Randall L pass. He was a reverse pass, and I think he hit either, was it Jeremy Tooman?
I was thinking it was Tooman, but I might be wrong.
I think it was Jeremy Tooman in the back corner of the end zone for the conversion.
Yeah, I think it was Tooman.
Okay, what year was that?
2002.
2002. Hold on. I will find that here shortly, because just to know that one for sure.
By the way, Tooman, he would have fit in our conversation last week.
Yes, he would have. The comp of Ben Skoranek is what you're talking about, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Jeremy Tooman definitely. Dan Kreider would have fit into that as well. Dan Kreider gets a pass, you're like, oh my gosh, they're letting him touch the football. Did you find it yet, Dave?
Nix.
Yeah. Okay. So what week was it, or what was it?
It was playoff.
It was the playoff. What am I? That's why I'm messing this up. Yeah, the 36-33 wild card. Yeah, it was Jeremy Tooman pass from Antoine Randall.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yep.
A draw to Chris Fumatu Mafala. No one saw it coming.
3-yard rush with 54 seconds left.
Gosh, that was awesome. So much fun. If anyone's watching this, listening to this, and I know we have a younger generation of fans that have now started to listen to our podcast. And I know people have said, oh, the oldest memory I have is like in 2005 when the Steelers went to when they won the Super Bowl 40 in 2004, 2005, whatever, those years with Ben. Go back and watch some of those Tommy Gunn games. They were incredible. The Falcons game that ended in a tie with Michael Vick at Heinz Field. That was insane.
I'm going to give a plug to where you can do it. McMillan and Wife Steelers.
Yeah.
They are fantastic for that.
I don't know how they get away with that.
I don't know either, but let's not get them in trouble. I can't afford to lose them.
All right, Dave, you ready for trivia?
I am ready for trivia. I've got several different trivia, and they're all kind of along the same lines, and it's not dealing with the Cleveland Browns because we had that a couple weeks ago. What we're dealing with now is the Pittsburgh Steelers scoring a whole crap load of points, and also how they followed those up. But first, before we get to the follow-up, the question is this. The Steelers scored 44 points on Sunday. When is the last time they scored that many points on the road?
Oh. So I'm guessing that the 2018 game that everyone's talking about, that was a home game against the Carolina Panthers, right?
Yes, that was at home.
So on the road.
The last time they hit 44 or more points on the road.
Goodness gracious.
Oh, that's great, Dave.
That's a tough one.
Because I was there when they put a 50 burger on the Colts in 14.
Yep, that was 51-34 at home.
Okay, well, I know they put 41 nothing on the Browns on Christmas Eve, because that's the game I talked about a couple weeks ago on Christmas Eve of 2005. But it's going to be over 44.
It's got to hit 44. So they haven't scored 44 points or more on the road since. Yeah. Something that tied or beat this amount.
I'm going to guess that this date's pre-Tomlin. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay.
I got an answer, but I'll wait till Jeff goes.
Jeff just went. I got a little bit of
Jeff's counting that as a win right there. He knows which coach it was under.
I got the arrow.
He knows which coach it wasn't under. We'll just say that.
That's right.
I'm going to go. Is it the game I talked about last week against Cincinnati when they scored 51 points on November 19th, 1995 against the Bengals?
November 19th, 1995. That is the next, and that wasn't 51. That was 49. They won that one 49-31 in 95. Okay. That's okay. 51 was against the Browns in 79, but anyway, doesn't matter. There was one since then. But what's ironic is, so that was in Cincinnati. This most recent was in Cincinnati. And the other one that was since then, also in Cincinnati.
I know when that was, and I've got a story behind it. It was, it's 2000. It was right after. This is a funny story, actually. I got to tell you this real quick. It was right after Thanksgiving.
Yep.
I was living in West Virginia. I went to put the Christmas lights on the roof during halftime because I figured I could throw them up. We had a small house. I figured I could throw them up real fast. And the ladder fell and I got stuck on the roof and nobody could hear or see me. And so I remember, for some reason I had the window
Christmas
open.
With the cranks when he's trying.
I remember having the window open and like trying to peek in to see the game, and it didn't work.
It's such a Bryan story, I swear.
Okay.
What the stuff this guy does during halftime of games? I went and showered because I needed to shower. Like, what do you do?
I showered during the Ravens game. Yeah, a couple weeks
ago.
I put up Christmas lights. Halftime is all it is. 12 minutes.
I put up Christmas lights during. Who can put up Christmas lights? I don't care how small your house is. If you're doing it right in 12 minutes, you're nuts. You deserve to get stuck on your roof.
Yeah. All right. So that was question one.
That hurts me, Jeff.
I've actually got 3. So I'm going to keep going, although this is hilarious. I only went back to the merger. It could have maybe happened before, but I doubt it. The Steelers have only scored 44 points or more one time in a loss. Do you know when that was?
Oh, my goodness. Over 44 in a loss.
Yeah, well, it was exactly 44, actually.
Okay. 44 in a loss. Yeah. 1985 against San Diego on Sunday Night Football. I think it was like 54-44.
That is correct.
Is that the right score?
That 54-44 is correct. 1985 in
late
San
December
Diego.
or December of. It was December,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a Sunday Night Football game.
Yeah, very good, very good. So now let's get to those were just fun, but really what I wanted to look at is how do the Steelers do the week after they score a lot of points? So I set the standard as 40 in order to get enough data. And I looked at it in the Tomlin era, so since 2007, where the Steelers have scored 40 or more points in a game, what they did the following week. All right. This was the 12th time that they've done it. So they have 11 previous games under Mike Tomlin of scoring 40 points or more. What do you think the Steelers' record is the following week after scoring points out of those 11 games?
12-0. 11. I thought you said 12. 11-0.
Yeah. Well, this was the 12th one. We don't know what happened yet. Yeah.
I'm going to go 7-4.
Okay. And split the difference.
9-2.
It's 9-2. Now, there's something that should be noted about those. One of them, actually, it was the first one, was 2007 when they scored 41 points in St. Louis on Thursday Night Football. Bryan's talked about that game. The next week, they rested everybody. That was a Charlie Batch game in Baltimore, and they lost. Okay. The other loss actually came in after they scored back-to-back 40-point games. Do you guys know when the Steelers scored back-to-back 40-point games?
I'm going to go with, I don't know exactly what the score was, but was it Indy and Baltimore in 2014 when Ben had 6 touchdown passes that
would be correct. And they scored over 43 times in that season. But yeah, that was back-to-back. They beat Indy scoring 50. The next week they beat Baltimore scoring 43. And then the next week they had a really big letdown and only scored 13 points against, I think they were the 1-8 Jets. If you guys remember that one.
Yeah, Michael Vick.
They lost that one 13-20.
Not Michael Vick. That's the game that LeGarrette Blount decided he was going to. He quit the next week, but LeGarrette Blount had a really bad game there, and he started to get less carries. But real quick, something happened At halftime of that game against the Ravens, that second game, do you know what happened in that game? Somebody was honored.
Brian Davis.
Joe Green, retired jersey.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah, that was the retirement jersey with there. Yeah, okay. That doesn't seem like that was 10 years ago, honestly.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I mean, the game feels like it was 10 years ago, but the retirement of the jersey doesn't seem 10 years ago. So the Steelers are 9-2. I will tell you this, if you want some other interesting numbers with it, I won't do it trivia. I'll just give you, these are more now fun facts. They're 4-0 under Mike Tomlin when they play the game at home after winning by 40, by winning and scoring. Well, they won all these games anyway, scoring 40 points or more. If you look at that, how do they respond? And you look at all games, they average 26.4 points the next week after scoring 40. But if you look at just the home games where they're 4-0, they've averaged 34.0 points the next week. And every single one of those games, they scored at least 31. They scored 31 3 times. And the only time they scored more than that was that Baltimore game that was the back-to-back 40-point games. And that's what happens when the Steelers get a home game after having a big scoring output. Let's see if they can continue to do that this week. Go Steelers.
All right, Brian, I'm going to give you the full frontal final thoughts this week. I'll let Dave do the felt up ones. Go ahead.
That sounds good. I'm feeling frontal, and so let's get up. So here we go. There's so much to talk about, and I'm saying this every single week now, and you're wondering why I'm saying it, because it's a game against Cleveland. For the next 5 weeks, you're going to hear me say this is a crucial game for the Steelers. Steelers don't have a margin for error right now. I've heard a lot of people saying, oh, the Steelers can go 3-2 and be okay. You don't want them to go 3-2. At worst, I'm going to take 4-1 right now. They need to make statements. If they are a Super Bowl contender, you got to beat the Ravens on the road. If they are a Super Bowl contender, you got to split with Philadelphia and Kansas City and take care of business in your division. You got to go 5-1 in your division. And you got really, if you want to go ahead and get that bye, and you know how crucial that bye and home field advantage to avoid going to Kansas City, possibly to avoid going to Buffalo, possibly, then you go ahead and you beat Kansas City on Christmas Day. So every single game is crucial right now. I don't care who the opponent is. There's no margin for error, because those guys, the guys in Buffalo and the guys in Kansas City has a horseshoe up the patootie, and Buffalo's just really good.
All right. Dave, felt up final thoughts. What do you got?
One game at a time. Beat the Browns. Worry about everything else as it comes along. Get to double-digit wins with many games left to play and not have to worry about it. And most importantly, be on the rise in December. You started September the right way. Did I say September? December the right way. I don't even know if I said the right month. You gotta keep this going. You can't lose to an inferior team twice in a season. Who are you? The Baltimore Ravens playing Kenny Pickett? No, you're better than that. All right. You can't lose to the Browns twice this season. And the players know this. They outplayed them last game. They outgained them in so many different things, except on the freaking scoreboard. This time, you can't let those things get you down. Just go out and take care of business.
Take care of business indeed. Hopefully the Steelers do that. We will be back on Sunday after the game. Dave will not be with us, but Brian and I will be there. Maybe we'll have a third. Maybe we won't. Who knows? You got to check us out to find out. Hopefully the Steelers win. Week 14. Make sure you check out all of our podcasts, like my Let's Ride podcast every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Dave's Pittsburgh Standard Time with Benevin. If you missed it, go back and check it out on Thursday morning. Brian's Here We Go Steelers Show with Coach KT Smith and Bad Language. All of it. Got to find us on our podcast platform. Just search Steelers or Steel Curtain Network. And as always, I'll plug the website, steelcurtainnetwork.com. Give us a try there, steelcurtainnetwork.com. But that does it, gentlemen. Thanks for another good show. Dave, why don't you send us out?
Hey.
We'll see you next week on another Steelers preview.
Steel Curtain Network. Get it. everybody else gets a little tight.